What's up, guys? Welcome to another episode of Sweat Equity. This is episode 46. Today's a little different. We are doing a solo episode. Brian's traveling. I'm trying to be proactive and stay ahead of schedule. So today's going to be a solo episode. I'm going to be doing a 25 minute deep dive. And so today's topic, I'm going to be talking about how to find your content pillars. Looking at this doc, there's roughly 10 steps that we're going to be going through to do that. And the goal of this is by the end of this video, you're going to be able to walk away with understanding how to define your narrative, the questions that you need to ask yourself to figure out what are the right content pillars for you, how to do research and reverse engineer what your competitors are doing and what their content pillars are, how to approach testing and testing different formats and ideas, and even how to take one idea and really skin it and turn it into 8-9 different ideas. Then the last few parts is finding content market fit, then understanding that there's content that have different goals, right? Whether it's inspiration or converting a customer. Then the last few pieces are how to test an idea and this framework that I have where you test an idea 3 times and then you apply the 3% rule, which we'll get into, establishing these 3 to 5 content pillars, then finishing it off by putting it together into a strategy that we work from top of funnel down to bottom of the funnel. So from expanding your ecosystem down to converting customers. So let's get right into it. So step number 1 is understanding what your narrative is. And so what your narrative is how your customers define you with less than 5 words. If they were talking to a customer, then it's understanding like, what are those 5 words? And I always have different examples that I like to use here. We work with a company called Blenders. Their narrative is be seen, be loud. So what this means is every piece of content has to feed and amplify this idea of being seen and being loud, right? And so when we think about other brands, so another one is Represent. Represents is on a mission, or Represent 247 streetwear brand. We talked about that brand a lot, but Represents is on a mission. So every piece of content, every launch, every collab, etc., has to feed that narrative of being on a mission and in this bigger pursuit of life. BPN is another one. Go One More is their narrative. And so again, we think about creating this narrative, this overarching theme that all of your content amplifies. If not, you're not creating what we call like a social identity. And that's what we're trying to create here, is this identity that people can relate to, and that almost becomes a magnet, right? People that they resonate with the narrative and they want to become a part of the narrative. And then the product and being a part of the brand is how you become a part of that narrative. It's how you identify with it. And it's why people rep or buy specific clothes or shoes or products, supplements, whatever it is because of the narrative that they're getting behind when they purchase a product, right? For a lot of people, it is a lot deeper than just purchasing a product. And there are some products, don't get me wrong, that people just purchase because they're essentially doing a job that needs to be done. But in a lot of cases, the reason I wear All Saints, the reason I wear Nike, the reason I buy a Yeti versus a Stanley, like there's all of these reasonings behind it. And that comes from like these overarching narratives that these companies establish. And then they have content that feeds that narrative over and over again until it's like imprinted into your mind that you're like, oh, okay, I resonate with that. I buy the product because I want to tell the world that I'm also, that like everything that they stand for, their values, etc., like that is me as well. And that is that social identity. It's essentially how the internet perceives you, which is important. And I know a lot of you will be like, oh, like fuck the internet and what it thinks. It's like, no. Like how the internet perceives you is important, because how the internet perceives you is who the algorithm will show you to, which is key, right? You want to put the right content out there to get in front of the right people. And so if you're not saying the right narrative, you're not creating the right narrative, you're not going to get in front of the right people. And that is a key pillar of understanding how to create a good content strategy, and understanding it's like the precursor to a good content pillar. And so to rewind and put this into an actionable step, it's really one thing in one exercise. If you can define how your customer will talk about your brand to another friend in less than 5 words, like that is your narrative. It encompasses all your values and your mission and your vision into those 5 words. The next layer is really these questions you should ask yourself. There's 4 questions, and the goal is really to find outliers here. And so we're going to go through each question and how they pertain to content pillars. So the first one is, why do your customers come to you, right? What do they come to you for? And a lot of times, if you're someone like me who creates a lot of educational content around marketing, etc., I think about, okay, what do my friends come to me for advice about? And it's always marketing content. But then I wanted to go a layer deeper. It was like, okay, if people come to me in marketing content, like let's go layer deeper and figure out like what is the most common denominator within that marketing content. It was content marketing. And so my layer deeper now is a large pillar of my content is content marketing. And then we went a layer deeper and it was, okay, who am I going to be speaking to? It's going to be mostly health and wellness, lifestyle and fitness brands, like et cetera. So the key to this is understanding and being able to answer the question, that is, what topics do they already ask about or interact with you or your brand about, right? That is where you're going to start finding the common denominators to start establishing your content pillars. And so the goal is to really reverse engineer. Okay, my customers repeatedly ask me about this, or my friends repeatedly ask me about this. There's something here. There's potential here because I am known as like the librarian or the resource when it comes to this kind of information. The next is, what areas do you have something valuable to add for that audience, even if they don't know you can help? And so the way I like to think about this is, where do I share a unique POV that somebody that's 1 or 2 years behind me doesn't have that point of view yet? Right. And so understanding that I have a valuable POV is now somewhere where I can start laying the groundwork and the foundation for a good content pillar. Again, for me, is because I've worked with so many brands in the last 8 to 9 years on the content marketing side, from working as a social media manager, as working as a content creator, starting an agency, working with e-com brands to media companies on all of their content strategy. I have a unique advantage here. I have a certain set of skills, not to quote Liam Neeson, but a certain set of skills that makes me a valuable individual to talk about that specific topic. And so my whole framing for this is, how do I essentially create content that is a library around that topic so that I am now the resource for individuals 1 to 2 steps behind me, so that they can get the information that fast tracks them to where I am now. The third is, what challenges does this audience need to solve? And so right here, another area where I like to find feedback and data that tells me that, hey, like this has the potential to be a content pillar, is reviews, or looking at competitors' reviews, or looking at competitors' content and their top performing content. There's a lot of data there to understand what are the challenges that an audience faces, a specific audience faces. One that I'll revert back to is this company we've talked about, Moisey Wash. A lot of Moisey Wash's top content is about how other laundry detergents are toxic, right? Moisey Wash is like a safer alternative to laundry detergent. And so that should be a content pillar within their strategy. It should be a top of funnel content pillar. Why? Like, even if you search Tide on TikTok, you'll find some of the top content is about Tide and their toxic ingredients. And so therefore, we want to see that as data to be like, okay, like this is a challenge that my audience is facing, my customer base is facing. Therefore, I could take this data point and turn it into a content pillar. And then the fourth one is, what type of solution interests them, right? So, and again, them is audience here. So we want to think about what solutions are they always on the hunt for? And then we want to reverse engineer those solutions into content ideas, into content pillars, etc. So again, by doing this, the goal is to really find outliers. We don't want to see something that's like one good idea and be like, okay, I'm going to run with that. That's a content pillar. No, we want to find the things that are often repeated and are seen as like obvious. If I'm looking at reviews and I constantly see one question getting asked and it has like it's a central topic, it's something that I can scale endlessly, then it's like, okay, there's something there that is the potential to be a content pillar. If I see something that just gets my wheels to spin one time and there's really no other feedback or no other data or no other content really around it, then chances are it's not going to be a good content pillar. The third layer is research. So there's a few things I like to do here. I like to look at 4 things: content buckets, content topics, content ideas, and content formats. I won't go too deep into this because we've already talked about this in another episode, but it's this idea of being able to reverse engineer your competitors or reverse engineer other players in the space, et cetera, and how you do so. I like to use a tool called Social Blade and a tool called SparkTuro specifically for here. And so what I like to do is I like to take a competitor, plug it into the tool SparkTuro, and there I'm going to be able to see if people follow that account, like they're also then consuming these websites and these podcasts and these YouTube channels and these Instagram channels, etc. And by doing so, I'm able to bucket some of the content and some of the common denominators there. And so some of the buckets that I could be looking at is, okay, are we doing more BTS content? Are we doing more green screen content? Are we doing more challenges? Like, what are the buckets that are outperforming others where we could say, okay, there's potential here because the data is saying that there is, right? Like, it's already performing well. Then I like to look at the topics, like, what are people talking about? What are people creating content around that says, okay, people enjoy this? Is it how-to content? Is it breakdowns? Is it quick tips or listicles? Like, what is that content that is constantly performing within that niche? And the thing to understand here is, for some, a listicle might work. A listicle is like 3 reasons why I'm doing X, Y, Z. For another, it may be a how-to video. For another, it may be just like a POV video with like very fast text. So it's good it's good to understand and do the research that tells you within that niche what is performing well, right? Because your whole goal is to be able to use research to simplify and gain like a good hypothesis that you can work against to see what works for you. And so with topics, I like to look at those overarching parenting topics, right? If content marketing is a topic, then I like to think about the content ideas underneath it. So if the topic is content marketing, right? An idea can be something like remaking a piece of content. If I was this brand, this is how I would do X. Or it could be like a piece that I make that's like good content versus bad content, or a content strategy playbook, right? And so we want to take these parent topics and then have core ideas under these parent topics. A lot of what we'll get to later on about establishing your content pillars really comes from understanding your content buckets and your content topics, not so much your ideas. Your ideas fall under content pillars. The last part is formats. Formats is how you distribute the information specific to a platform. I like to think about this as every topic or every content idea will have different formats that the information can be relayed in. If we talk about hydrating for a marathon, for example, we can do a tutorial, right? This is how to hydrate for a marathon, but we can also do something like a vlog that's like, hey, follow me along as I hydrate for my longest run ever, right? That is a vlog format. And so what we can do is, when we have a topic, then we have ideas. We can scale those ideas by having multiple different formats, which is going to go into the next section. This is number 4. So the next thing is we want to talk about is testing formats. To piggyback off of what I just said, I like to take a central topic and then see how many ways I can skin it. How many ways can I relay this information? If you actually pay attention to a piece of content that I put out recently and it went viral, where I go, this is content that every brand should make, you'll see that I'm formatting it into different types of content. I had the podcast clip, then I had a green screen clip, then I made a carousel, and then I think I did a breakdown as well, right? And so right there, I just turned one good idea, one central topic, which is content marketing, like brand content marketing, into 4 different formats, which is essentially 4 different ideas. Because of that, I was able to generate, just out of those 4 pieces of content, millions of impressions by repackaging it. And so when we think about a parent topic and we think about something like how to hydrate for a marathon, we want to go through the different list of formats that you can plug that idea through. So think about a tutorial, a challenge, a breakdown, commentary, a vlog, interview, BTS, POV. These are all different formats that you can take one topic and skin it through, right? And then you could take it, you could scale it, and you can add other ideas to that, right? So again, tutorial, think about how to hydrate for a marathon. The breakdown could be a breakdown of a scientific report about why you need to hydrate every 45 minutes. A vlog could be already what I established. You can interview somebody within the space and have them explain how to hydrate during a marathon. And the reason for this, and we're going to bring this all back and tie this all together, but the goal is to find content market fit. Content market fit is 3 things. It's what the algorithm favors, it's what you want to create, and then it's what your audience consumes. And being able to understand what a content topic is, different content formats, and different content ideas, we can test enough to find content market fit. I'll give a good example. I had a video, one of my first videos that went viral was where I talked about True Classic, and I was trying to break down their marketing and how they went from a company that was doing 3,000 in sales to 150 million in revenue. So the first variation of that video, I basically broke down the landing pages that True Classic uses to convert customers on paid ads And like even me just saying that to the camera, you understand that is very like a very deep topic that only marketers would understand. And because I didn't really have an audience at that side or at that time on Instagram, me putting that content out there, it's not going to reach the masses because it's not made for the masses, right? It's made for a very specific group, the people that do media buying and understand CRO or conversion rate optimization and paid ads. And so therefore it's like that wasn't really made to go viral. And so I tried it again, right? And again, the whole goal is I'm trying to find content market fit here. And so the next video I did was a breakdown, right? This was a breakdown of their story, how they went from $3,000 to $150 million in revenue. Still, it performed okay. It wasn't anything lights out. And I'll go into some reasons into even why I continued testing it in a second, but it wasn't like a lights out piece of content. And so, and again, like even when we think about it, it was all about how I presented the information, that it wasn't relatable to the masses. And so the third angle that I found was, okay, I'm going to make this as relatable as possible, and enough people, when I say the hook, will be able to understand what I'm about to go into. And so I said, this is True Classic's $150 million marketing playbook. Marketing is broad enough that people are going to understand what I'm trying to talk about there. Playbook is much easier to digest and to understand of like, okay, this guy's just going to give me a breakdown of what they're doing. That video ended up getting 300,000 views. That is the definition of content market fit. Does it mean that the other two videos weren't valuable? No. But how I presented it, how I packaged it, the format that I put it into, etc., is what helped it find content market fit, which again is what the algorithm favors. The algorithm favored how I delivered that content and how I packaged the hook and the context, etc. Then it's also, what do I want to create? What I wanted to create along all three videos was roughly the same, but how I packaged it was key. So I was really checking off number 2 of content market fit. By the way, guys, so I actually took this entire 25-minute, 30-minute podcast episode and I turned it into a guide that you can download. So if you go into the description, you're going to find this entire guide laid out for you within frameworks, process, examples, etc. And you're going to be able to download it, use it. It takes 2 seconds to download it, and you can let me know how you use it. Thanks. Number 3 is what your audience consumes. My audience, which is a larger, broader content marketing audience, didn't want to hear the story. They didn't want to hear nitty gritty of their ads and their landing pages. They wanted to hear the playbook, the dissection of what they're doing to succeed. That is how you find content market fit. It's understanding, and it's the intersection of those 3 things. It's your audience has to want to consume that content. The algorithm is going to favor that content, and you also want to make it. Piggybacking off of that piece of content, the marketing playbook, that has now become a pillar within my strategy. And if you look at some of my top performing content, it is that. And it only came from testing different formats and just testing how I package ideas, which goes into the next layer. And this is the 3 times 3% rule that I have. And so the idea here is that you always want to test an idea or a format 3 times before you dump it. And what you want to be looking for here is essentially data that tells you that this has potential. And to go back to the example of True Classic, and when I was talking about their ads and their landing pages, right? I was looking at specific data to tell me, okay, is this a good example? The data I was looking at was average watch time, saves, and shares. I wanted to look at the ratio of likes to saves and shares, and then the overarching KPI of metric of watch time. So the ratio of likes to shares would basically tell me, hey, that if my audience find this valuable to some degree, if they're saving it, they want to keep it. They want to watch it again. They want to come back to this. If they're sharing it, they're like, damn, it's so valuable that they're sharing it with somebody else. And so when I was creating that content, or when I published that content, then I look back at the content, I saw, okay, this has nearly a 2-to-1 like to save or like to share ratio. Therefore, there's something here, right? If it got 100 likes and 50 saves or 50 shares, it's like, okay, this piece of content has potential. I haven't formatted it or created it in the right way yet, where the algorithm favors it. And so what I like to do is I like to test the format 3 times if I see something has potential. And so what I will do is then I will change every variation. I would change it 3%. So on that first one, I talked about ads and landing pages. Then I went a little broader. That was my 3% change. My 3% change was, and sorry, this idea of 3% change is this rule by Virgil Abloh where he talks about for an idea to be completely novel, you just have to change it by 3%. And so my rule is when I'm creating a piece of content like this is what is the thing that I'm going to be changing 3%? In this case, it was the entire story, right? It was like what I was talking about was my 3%. And I also think I changed something within the hook where I talked about like in the first one, I was like a little longer with the hook. And then in the second hook, I was like, this is how this brand turned $3,000 to $150 million, right? So I changed the hook also by 3%. And then the last variation of it was taking that 3% rule again and being like, okay, again, saved the like to save ratio, like to share ratio is here. I'm just not doing this right. I'm not doing it like perfectly where the algorithm favors it. And so that's where I did, okay, we're going to change like the theme. The theme is instead of a story, instead of a breakdown, it is a playbook. And so I positioned it as a playbook versus, just a story about how they went from 3,000 to 150 million. That was what struck the chord. That was it, right? And so that came from testing and not just ditching an idea. If I would have just ditched the idea, then I would never landed on Playbooks being a content pillar within my content strategy. And so the idea then is you also want to have content pillars that fall into these 4 buckets: content to inspire, content to educate, content to entertain, or content to convert. Not every brand is going to do not every brand is going to do 4 of 4 things, right? Very rarely am I really getting into like entertainment. Like that's just not me when it comes to my content. A lot of my content falls more so into inspire, educate, and convert, not so much into the entertainment. Are there layers sometimes where I add some entertainment if it's a podcast with Brian, if I'm making a joke within one of my videos? Yeah, but it's never like the core content pillar that I'm focused on. And so what you want to think about here is when we're putting this all together, when we're thinking about creating top of funnel content and middle of funnel content, you want to understand like, okay, what are the things that I'm going to be doing? What is the content that's going to either inspire, entertain, or educate, or convert that are top of funnel, that are middle of funnel, that are bottom of funnel? Which one of those themes is going to drive the specific action that I want to be taken to then achieve some kind of goal, right? Content pillars really stem and come from your goals.
So let me show you how you can grow your brand like Erewhon. So let's be real, a 6-year-old brand integrating influencer marketing into their strategy. It's pretty interesting. So the idea is then what's stopping your brand from doing the same thing? I get it. Sourcing and sealing deals with influencers is a nightmare. Using spreadsheets, we know that's not easy. And tracking deliverables is insanely tedious. And most of the time, influencers just drop the ball. But here's the thing. It's 2024 and we have way better solutions than what we did even a year ago, and definitely in comparison to what we had 10 years ago. And that's where SARAL comes in. Because with SARAL, you can build a list of influencers. So think of like a CRM, but for influencer marketing. You can send out automated outreach sequences, and you could create and track relationships at different stages of the funnel. Working with a top of funnel influencer versus a bottom of funnel influencer is a different thing, and they have different requirements and different content needs. But here's the craziest part for brands like yours. And that's that brands that are working with SARAL are averaging a 5x ROAS, which is nearly double what most brands are seeing on Facebook right now. So here's the thing. If you want to take it for a spin, we got you a free trial via Sweat Equity. And all you got to do is click the link that I put in my bio. You'll also see the link right here. And trust me when I say it's the only tool you really need to build out a good and robust influencer marketing program. So check it out. Let me know how you like it and try it for free. If your goal is to build up a very large audience, then you want to spend more of your time doing the education and the inspiration, the entertainment, and not so much on the conversion side. And then if 2 years down the road, you're like, okay, I'm going to launch this product, then your content pillars can shift to be able to focus on converting customers, right? And so a lot of this is understanding what your goals are at a time. And so the way I like to think about this and the way I help brands do this is we're going to look at the next 3 months. And we're going to look at either products that are launching, different initiatives, etc. And then we're going to establish content pillars based on those initiatives. If you have the next 3 months of just nothing but product launches, then we're actually going to figure out how we have top of funnel content and middle of funnel content that integrates product. But then we're also going to have to figure out what are the content pillars that we're integrating into the strategy that are specific to promoting a product. So if we're working with a sunglasses company, and we want to think about top of funnel content,
right? And we can take blenders for an example here. If the idea is be seen, be loud, right? Like that is the overarching narrative, but they're trying to promote a new product that's coming out in, in X days or in X weeks. We can think about how we integrate on the street interviews that are very top of funnel, right? That are meant to go viral, but how do we integrate product into it? That could be a challenge. Hey, do X and I'll give you a free pair of sunglasses. That could be similar to La La Land Kind Cafe and their content where they do like spreading positivity or drive by kindness. It's a series that they do where they give out compliments. We can do our own variation of that and then give one random person a pair of sunglasses after spreading some positivity, right? Like there's these ideas of how we integrate product into it. Now, if you're just trying to expand the ecosystem and you're not trying to integrate product and you're really just trying to build a following, that's where we could think of this top of funnel content from the lens of how do I get as many people within my ecosystem? I have nothing that I'm launching. My sole goal is to expand my net so that when I do get to a place where I'm promoting product or services, etc., I have enough people to promote it to and they're net new and it's not the same people that I've been promoting it to for days on end, months on end, right? And so that's what we want to think about when we're thinking about these different layers within your content. And that's why even when you're establishing these content pillars, you want to start with top of funnel, then you work your way down to bottom of funnel. Top of funnel is content that has the potential to reach the masses. Uses content that is very relatable. There's a lot of people within the category, within the niche. Then middle of funnel is how do you get people to engage? How do you turn followers into fans? How do you get people to feel like they're embodying the brand and they're a part of the brand? Not just a follower. They're not just somebody who hit a button. When we really think about what a follower is, it's somebody who just hit a button. The whole goal is to get somebody to go from hitting a button to engaging with anything of yours that comes across their feed. So when I like to think about pillars when it comes to the middle funnel, this is where I'm thinking about either influencers and some education formed around their influencers, or I'm thinking about a lot more educational content if my product needs it. Right? This is all very specific to specific kinds of products. And then at the bottom of funnel, there's two ways I like to even approach this. There's bottom of the funnel content where I'm trying to really turn followers into fans. This could be day in the life content. This could be vlog content. This could be, hey, follow me along as I try to do X in 30 days. Like this content where like somebody's buying into the process, buying into what you're doing. The easiest way to turn a follower into a fan is to get them to root for you. That is one version of bottom of funnel content. It's like you're not making content for your followers. You're not making content to gain new followers. You're trying to make content for your followers to really deepen that relationship with them and nurture them so that they become a fan of you. They're just rooting for you. Then there's promotional content, right? Like this is the other variation of bottom of funnel content where you're either trying to test ad creative or you're trying to get somebody to take some kind of action. If you don't have, or you're not promoting ads at that time, you're trying to use a piece of content to drive some kind of action. And so the way I like to piece this all together is I try to find 3 to 5 content pillars. These 3 to 5 content pillars are these content buckets, right? These parent topics that I'm always going to be talking about. And again, the way I'm going to find them is by going into data and reviews and to testimonials, etc., to find the common things that people are coming to me for. The next part is I'm going to find what my competitors are doing, what they're talking about, and what's performing within the category or within the niche to then understand, okay, this parent topic is something that people are interested in. A lot of people engage with it, and it has potential to be a content pillar. And so what I'll do from there is I'm going to have 3 to 5 content pillars, and for me, that is good content versus bad content. That is playbooks. And I'm still in a position where I'm trying to find what that third or fourth one is. But imagine you're a hydration company. You can have a pillar that is education around performance. You can have a pillar around your athletes day to day. The third can be the BTS behind the company or something along those lines where you're trying to get people to buy into the mission or the vision, etc. And so those would be the 3 content pillars. And then the next layer underneath that is what are all the content series underneath those content pillars that you can create a ridiculous amount of content around. And then the next layer to that would be, how do I take those central ideas and those central series and now package them into different formats that now we can turn one idea into 10. But it starts with your content pillars. And your content pillars, again, I will say this over and over and over again, it stems from what is working within your category, within your niche. what is your audience coming to you for? What are the problems that they're facing? What are the solutions that they're on the hunt for? And your goal is, and the thing that you need to be very good at is reverse engineering somebody's desires, what they want, what they need to consume, so that you can be that resource. The whole goal of content pillars is really to create so much content around specific topics and parent topics and buckets that you become the resource of information within that category, so that your content strategy is at all times bringing more people in, getting those people to root for you and become fans of you, than getting fans to purchase from you. And that is how you then find strategic and good content pillars that help take you from A to B, B to C, C to D, etc. So I hope that helps. That was a kind of long 25-30 minute rant. So I hope that helps. If you have any questions about content pillars, just drop them into the YouTube comments and I'll start answering them. Dude, I also turn this into a playbook. So into a downloadable, printable, whatever PDF. And so if you want that, then just click the link in the description and we'll send it to you. We'll email it to you and you could follow the step-by-step framework and guide that we laid out for that.